Hello everybody. I'm currently sitting on my couch right now because my bed is just way too far away. But what's this? How to Live, a Tutorial for Life by Fred. The Macintosh guy? Fundamentals. Breathing. Breathing is a crucial function of living as it provides your cells with a constant stream of oxygen. To breathe, inhale, and then exhale. Why would I need a tutorial on how to breathe? Tutorials! They're a thing? The universal challenge about game developers is introducing your game's mechanics in a way that hooks new players and lets them fully appreciate its intricacies. All games have tutorials. Or, all games should have some type of tutorial. RPGs usually begin with tutorial regions that ease the player to game style, while Valve games typically introduce their mechanics organically. Half-Life 2 is a great example of how Valve approaches tutorials. You're simply dropped into the dusted world of C-17 and are taught the game's controls through environmental interactions and scripted events. Tier 2 tutorial doesn't even work. But, this video is about those games. No. This video is about Roblox. Yeah, Roblox is technically not a game. It's an ultimate virtual universe that lets you create, share experiences with friends, and be anything you can imagine. I'm gonna pretend like I never said that, because it's so corporate and I'm not a Roblox show. But that brings me to an important point about Roblox. It's not a single unified game. All the games of Roblox are individually unique. So, how do you make a tutorial for Roblox? And does Roblox even need a tutorial? Well, I came across a game by Roblox Education that tries to tackle this challenge. Before we get to the game though, let's talk about this group. Roblox Education. This thing is an official group sanctioned by Roblox to introduce educators to the platform. Roblox in education? You're really trying to push that virtual universe thing, huh? This group in Roblox's efforts to thrust itself into the world of education deserves its own video. But the idea of Roblox in education kind of irks me. It's definitely a corporate decision made to hook children onto Roblox rather than genuinely benefit their education. Anyway, back to the game at hand. Getting started with Roblox. Whoa, that's a dreary like to dislike ratio. So the game begins with a slideshow telling you what you'll do during it. Great start. You begin in an empty classroom with, honestly, some really nice building. The desk and cabinet models are really clean and have actual curves, which are nearly impossible to make in Roblox Studio without custom meshes. Obviously, these models were made in Blender or some other external program, but they still look nice. The hallways littered with posters that reference extracurricular events that would definitely actually happen in Roblox. Yeah, totally. Oddly, all these events are scheduled in May, which is near the end of the school year. It must be Kyosuke's doing. It's May 13th all over again. Oh cool, there's a book club meeting. Where is everyone? You're then taught the sacred skill of jumping through this really unnatural floor design. Sure, the top of the floor works, but I feel like the map design could be more organic. Why not have a stack of boxes or a fallen locker here instead of this obvious step in the ground? Anyway, you then stumble upon a large organ and have to step on the keys in order to open the door. This is a fine way of producing environmental interactions. It's very basic and sanitized, but it works. Oh, one issue though. You can't play any accidentals, because any key other than C would be too hard. This is the part of the video where we're expected to play a song as organ, but it's organ still limiting to play songs on. We now enter the hardest part of the game. Pressing E. Wow. Riveting gameplay. I don't know why they included this section, because every game with the default object interactions literally tells you how to interact with said items. So this section is unnecessary. I hope the next section is better. What is that thing? This model is extremely uncanny. I've never liked Arthur characters. Roblox's new models just don't have the charm of the classic body styles. Anyway, we're given our first quest. An engaging challenge where you read and then take a quiz? Is this the most exciting thing they could have done? If you're introducing Roblox's flexibility as a platform and its interactability, why would you make the binoculars static? It would have been infinitely more fun if you have to look around a map for the birds with the binoculars. Well, maybe not fun, but at least stimulating. I don't know. This segment was just really disappointing. Especially the quiz. Why would I want to do a quiz in Roblox? The next section is pretty interesting though, especially since it involves my specialty. Physics! This is a simple projectile motion interactive with a spring launcher, but as a physics fan, I appreciate the consideration. Even if this blackboard is kind of vague, all it gives you is the formula for elastic potential energy. However, it's more appropriate to have the formula for conservation of mechanical energy, especially since the spring's potential energy is being converted to kinetic and gravitational potential energy for the spring block Earth system. Having only the formula for elastic potential energy is kind of weird, but that's just the physics kid in me being pedantic. And after that, that's all there is for the game. You're directed to the Roblox Education Hub and... Oh. This was made for kindergartners and preschoolers? Have I been dissing a game made for literal toddlers? Oh. Huh. Anyway, back to the question at hand. Does Roblox need a tutorial? In my opinion, no. It doesn't need a dedicated tutorial. Given the divided nature of Roblox, there can't be a good unified tutorial for all the games on the platform unless it's as generic and basic as possible. And at that point, you might as well make a webpage that introduces the basic controls of Roblox rather than a dedicated tutorial game. Roblox's controls are not complicated. GameStar with Roblox itself had a basic menu that summarized its controls. I mean, I don't really see why I need a game to teach these controls and just put on Roblox's menu screen. But then you have to tell players that you have to press escape to access the menu screen. And at that point, it's easier to press Alt F4 and quit Roblox forever. Maybe it's because I grew up on Roblox and there was no tutorial when I started, but I just can't see why there should be one. I'm a proponent of discovering things yourself. When I started, I remember pressing every key on my mom's laptop just to see what it did. And that's how I learned. It's much more empowering if the players discover the game's mechanics rather than having these mechanics handed to them. Really. It's not Roblox's responsibility to teach players the controls. The developers should make their own tailored tutorials for their games. My biggest issue with getting started with Roblox is how bland and generic it is. It's completely unnecessary. The entire game could be condensed into a single pamphlet and the effect would be the same. But those are my thoughts on if Roblox needs a tutorial. What do y'all think? Comment your ideas below. Anyway, back to you, Minidroit.
I see dead people.